That is interesting. Hmm. What's going on, everyone? Welcome in. Welcome in. That is quite odd. Why did that happen? What's going on, everyone? What's going on? What's going on? Izzy! What's going on, Mike? All right, let's take a look at some names. I know that class is gonna be starting. I think today's a review day from Sig and Dapper, so we'll take a look at some tickers real quick. I know that I didn't really look too much around the market, so I like figured take a look at what everyone else may have on their watch list right now. And did you really just say these nuts? Is that what this ticker is? DZNT. That doesn't even come up for anything. What is this? Izzy, are you sure you have the right ticker? I have no idea what you're looking at. But if that's the case, you'll give me another one. But what's going on? Let's see, MD. Taking a look at Nvidia. Let's take a peep at Nvidia real quick. I'll see what it's about. Izzy, I don't know what you're looking at. I'm sure you're looking at something though. Izzy, seriously? You know what? Remind me later on to get you back to that. What did Nvidia do? Actually, Nvidia didn't do so bad today. Actually, I know that I think AMD was down quite a bit. How was it compared to AMD? Actually, AMD was a nice recovery. Wasn't so bad. I know that Nvidia at one point in the day though it was down pretty darn bad. It was down about $9 on the day. That was pretty horrible right now. But from looking at this, let's see where our downtrend resistance pretty much lies right now. That'll probably be the first thing that I want to identify is where our downtrend resistance is. Let's see if we can get our downtrend resistance. So we're sitting right there. So pretty much we're looking to break this downtrend near 233.60 is where I'm looking at potentially to break this downtrend resistance. Although as you've seen, we've had a fake out previously. That's what I would be looking at. Now dialing into a smaller time frame here as we start to scale in here. Looking at the 4 hour, I can certainly identify that we do have a gap fill above. Going dialing down towards the 2 hour here. Now this actually is pretty much in just a peculiar spot right now is because of the fact that you have a gap fill above and you have a gap fill below. So right now it's like, all right, we're already in the gap above, and then the gap below is also incomplete right now, which is very interesting right now because given the spot that also that SPY is in right now. So you would be looking to see if we get any kind of continuation out of that last minute push that we got into the market close right there. So if we see any kind of push and maybe any sort of kind of gap up of some sort into tomorrow, then I would likely anticipate that this is going to end up filling this gap by market open at this 229.34 level. It would not surprise me, which that's about a $3 move to the upside here. If the market somehow were to gap up and continue that push into the end of the day here, which I know that if you heard Avery mention that he thinks that we just hit supply into the end of the day, which would pretty much cause us to go right back to the downside here tomorrow, or actually for the next few days rather. All right. So that's what I would expect. First thing is if we get the gap up, we pretty much fill this gap to the upside. Now, I do think that the downside here is a little bit more actually more promising in the sense that I think the downside pressure is pretty heavy. And we also saw that downside pressure with AMD as well in the same sector. And that's where you're looking for, in which I would have this pretty much a trend line support right here, is what I would have pretty much marked up. And I'm assuming that you pretty much do not have a position right now, MD. Correct me if I'm wrong. But if you're looking to really look to get into puts on this one, look to see when this actually breaks down on this trend line support, in which that's going to be right around this 223 mark. You're going to crack below 223, and that's when you're going to look to complete this gap that's basically incomplete at the bottom here, which will finish at 217.84, and we could potentially look to get down lower. In terms of certain levels that you're pretty much watching, You do have a pivot support here. 224.34 is one of those key levels that you basically want to watch. Below that, you're taking out a low 218.82. And then I do have next below that is 214.61. The big level that you do want to keep in mind, and this is why I've been looking at a lot of the 52-week lows, along so with the 1 month low. You do have the 1 month low on NVIDIA sitting at 206.50. So that's something that you also want to keep in mind as well. All right. What's going on, Mr. Serious? Welcome in, other guys. Um, so those are the key levels. So hopefully you were able to take note of those. But that's the ones that I would particularly watch for. I just don't like the fact that you're pretty much just sitting in an island right here, in which you can pretty much just leave this gap here at the top incomplete, and then you also have an incomplete gap at the bottom here. So I would just look to see when you break this uptrend here, and that will be that spot of breaking below 224, in which I would watch to see when this uptrend particularly goes right back to the downside here. All right, and that's what I would pretty much look to play out of NVIDIA. Other than that, someone mentioned Beyond Meat. I have not looking at this thing in ages, and I mean ages. I think the last time I probably looked at Beyond, it was pretty much within the $90 range. That was the last time I practically looked at this, and it's just so news driven that I really don't see a reason why to pretty much look at it. And at this point, it's also turned itself pretty much into like a meme stock. That's really what the vibe that I get out of Beyond Meat here. Let me just see where our downtrend resistance pretty much lies, and we can see where our support lies basically as well. So it is going into a little bit of a falling wedge action. Do we have earnings coming up? No, there's no earnings. We already had earnings back on February. So nothing here pretty much tells me that I want to go out and buy this, if I'm being honest. And if I'm looking at this, this is pretty much looking like a bear flag right now in the making here. So if I dial in a little bit more, probably on the 30-minute, this is starting to look like a bear flag formation here at the bottom, in which you're basically looking to break this downtrend rather quickly. And that's going to end up just being right down towards support. And that's what I would be a little bit worried about right now. And that's something that I would pretty much stay away. I think, again, this is pretty much very much a meme stock, to say the least, in which you're going to end up looking to see once you end up breaking below this level of this. What level is this I'm noting? Let me just get a cursor on it. You're looking below 42.34 is what you're looking at on the breakdown of Beyond Meat. You break below that 32.30, the 42.34, and you're coming down towards support of 41.5, and that's not going to be pretty. Otherwise, if you try and get the break, if you can get potentially a break over this 43.51, then you're flirting with this gap fill here at the top. But market trend as well as the chart itself pretty much tells me that it's favoring the downside, and that's what I would be looking at in terms of this play. All right, so that's pretty much Beyond Meat. Someone mentioned this is a new ticker, hymc. I have not seen this one at all. Okay, so this is precious metals. This is in the category of pretty much of what Tom would be looking at more so. Let's see what we're looking at. Actually, let me see the daily. I'm sure the daily probably tells you a better story. All right, the daily does say a way better story off of this. So I do like this one in particular. I think if I was looking at the 2 hour, it looked pretty nice. But as far as going into a gap here, this is very beautiful. I do like this gap quite a bit. I think I like the spot as well that you caught this one on, Eric. It's a really nice spot on this one. You're looking at a gap fill here over this 152 spot. You'll be looking at that gap fill. Pennies move very erratic, so be very cautious about that though. If I were to tell you that a spot that I would particularly look at in terms of trying to get a position, if you don't have one just yet, I would be looking to get in under this 140 mark. That would be the ideal spot of getting in under the 140 mark. If you're already in it, then you take the ride and you go right up towards this 164 and complete the gap fill. And so I do think it has a little bit more room beyond that gap fill, in which my overall PT here, which I think you're gonna hit your head on quite a bit of resistance and it's gonna end up rejecting, is this 193 mark. So keep an eye on that. I mean, it's more so a penny here, so I say they're gonna move pretty erratic, but I like the spot that you're sitting in. Quite the run that it had today, up 138%. That is a hell of a move out of that. So I do like this one in particular. That was a great find out of that one, Erich. All right. Other one someone mentioned was Tesla. Today was one of those days I haven't looked at Tesla all day, pretty much. I know that Avery's algo pretty much called out the Tesla put. I pretty much missed that one between being in Walmart for most of the day and AMD puts. I didn't even look at Tesla, and it's just one of those days where I just chose not to look at it. I know that they were looking towards the 840 mark into the close here between Dapper and Avery. So they kind of got that push. I think it actually smacked its head on 840. Few cents shy. So not a bad play. I like the fact that it showed quite a bit of resilience, a nice rebound off of those lows. If we can get a push here, and this is a big if, this is why I say it's a big if, is if we can get a move here over this 843, 844 zone, and which I'll pretty much drop a line right here real quick so you see what I'm particularly looking at. If you can get over that 844 is what the big level is, which I would potentially say, then you can play this towards this gap fill. And that's what I would look at playing this towards. Now you're not looking so much more towards more upside on that, other than playing this gap fill, because obviously I need to see more out of the market conditions itself. So I would play it towards this gap fill, in which you're going to complete that gap fill at 856, and that's how I would look to go about this. So if we break this tomorrow, we break over that 844 tomorrow. I don't mind playing this for a 0 day towards that gap fill. Granted, market conditions are ideal for that scenario. Otherwise, if we do not end up being able to get over this 844 level, then we're looking at retracing today's price action. And I thought I had a zone highlighted here, but I guess I don't. You're looking at potentially sitting right around this level right here, in which that's going to be your zone that you're looking at towards your downside here. In which I'm going to be looking to retest this downtrend that we ended up pretty much curling out of. It's 816 down towards 814 is where I'm looking at to potentially retest if the market wants to roll over and we're going to see further downside. So that's how I would go about playing that in terms of that. Otherwise, you lose that low that we have today. We could potentially see this come all the way down towards about 799, and that's going to be pretty ugly. All right. So that's what I would look at for this one for Tesla. I know that I'll probably be updating Tesla as well tomorrow. Likely tomorrow. I usually like to play Tesla on 0 days more so. So I'll wait for this one tomorrow, see what it does. I know that Avery pretty much hit a banger. I know his algo is going to continue to be hitting on Tesla. So if you're not paying attention in the cloud-based thread, I definitely suggest you go ahead and actually set your notifications, because once you get a tag for the cloud base, it will tell you and it will literally give you that algo alert off of Tesla. Because I know that he's literally tried his best to perfect that, and today he literally called a beautiful 15 down, $15 to the downside. So that was a hell of a move. So make sure you actually set your notifications and you pretty much get the role of cloud base so you can get those alerts off of the algos for Tesla that he created. All right. Other one someone mentioned, I think two of you mentioned Apple real quick, and this is one that I was watching pretty much today. I didn't have my chart was a lot more messy, but I pretty much just left two trend lines here. One was just finding the break of this uptrend that we had from the bottom of the reversal today. That was pretty much what I was watching, in which what you basically created here was this little, you could say a little channel off of the around the double bottom action here intraday, and I was looking to see once we broke that trendline support. So as you see, we pretty much broke that support right around the line of 158.21. We broke that bottom, and we were able to find support off of prior resistance and actual intraday support, in which you see where the buyers pretty much stepped in, and that's what caused that late day reversal right back to the upside and retesting that resistance. So this is usually why I say is that once you usually end up breaking the uptrend support, you usually retest it as resistance. That's basically what we're smacking our head on right now on Apple, is retesting this support trend line as a resistance, and it's usually going to incline that we end up rejecting and coming right back down, right? That's what I'm going to be looking for. Otherwise, if we're looking for further upside, I basically want to see us get right out of this zone right here. We're gonna need a convincing, maybe even a convincing gap up per se, to get out of this little downtrend that we have today. Over 159 is ideally what I'm looking at, in which we can play this towards testing that gap fill at 160. That's particularly what I saw going into tomorrow, is a lot of 160 calls. I even saw them ringing that towards the afternoon. So as you see, they pretty much paid off of this nice rebound that we had, and that's what I was looking at in terms of that. So if they do want to play this to the upside, we do get some kind of rebound and continuation tomorrow. We could smack our head on retesting the gap fill at 160, but I do not see this going above 160 inside of that gap fill. Apple's pretty much broken its uptrend, and for those of you that pretty much keep up with me on live here on YouTube, I pretty much mentioned the fact that I was waiting for names like Tesla, Microsoft, and also Apple to pretty much show their weakness. And this is the time where I actually saw the weakness out of Apple. And so we're pretty much flirting with an even bigger breakdown towards its 1 month low, which is sitting at 152. So I'm gonna keep a very keen eye on Apple tomorrow morning, and that's what I really want to see. Come with the market price action as well. I want to see how SPY is gonna react, smacking its head right into potential supply right into the end of the day there. I want to see if we're gonna end up getting any kind of continuation and how Apple's gonna respond to that once it does potentially even make its way towards that 160 mark and testing that gap fill. So that's what I'm gonna look. Otherwise, we're potentially looking at, and this is where I'm gonna go out to the daily here, in which I pretty much show you a bigger level that I was looking at, and I thought I actually had it highlighted, but I was pretty much smacking my head on basically looking at this level right down here, in which I could potentially look at this one going into tomorrow. And that's pretty much looking at right around that 153 mark, in which that would basically smack our head towards that 1 month low of 152. And as you see, that was pretty much as we saw previous breakout point that we had. And that pretty much dates back towards November of last year. We pretty much had a nice little attempt of a breakout of September last year as well. We've pretty much wicked it, basically, if you want to say for that matter, and then we just went right back under. So I'm looking to see if we retest that 152 and then basically put us right into that 1 month low, likely tomorrow if the market wants to roll over here overnight. That's about a $6 drop that we're potentially looking at going into tomorrow. And granted the fact that everyone more so thinks that we pretty much hit into resistance into that close, very convincing and sporadic price action for that matter, to say the word, right? We could end up seeing the market continue to roll over into tomorrow, and that'll likely smack our head into 152. So I did swing a little bit of puts on Apple. I took some profits off the table, basically, just because of the fact that I saw that sporadic move in the making here. This into power hour, I saw the buys pretty much coming in. So I took some profits off the table, but I am holding a small position Apple puts that pretty much expired tomorrow, and we'll see what she does, and I'll pretty much give an update on that. All right. Let me just look at two more tickers before class starts, because I know that I'm pretty much crunching time here real quick. I'm gonna look at the ADM real quick, and this is quite the ticker right now. That is a hell of an uptrend, I will say. Let me peep the 2 hour. Let's see what we're looking at. I do like this little downtrend resistance that I'm looking at. That pretty much caught my attention right off the bat, in which it looks like you pretty much broke right over that downtrend resistance. I do like that quite a bit, as I pretty much try to get this aligned. So you pretty much smacked your head just a bit right into that downtrend resistance off of this rebound. You wicked over that uptrend resistance basically, and then you came right back under, and now you're hitting right your head right on that resistance. So I would not be long on this one just yet until it crosses back over this 84.80 mark, and then we could potentially see that all-time high. Otherwise, this will be the ideal spot in which you pretty much just hit resistance right here, in which you're sitting right around 84.45, and you're going to see a rejection and come right back down. So I would wait for this one, wait to see if you can hold this potential after hours price action, and you get the move right over 84.80, and you could take that into a new high here. So that's what I would be looking for in terms of this one. I like this chart quite a bit. It's just that it is a peculiar spot basically because of the fact that you're hitting your head into some resistance. So I do want to see if this after hours price action is going to hold and takes you right back over this uptrend resistance, and you see the continuation back to the all-time highs here. All right. But this is definitely a nice chart. Otherwise, if you do pretty much break down here under this 84, 82.94, is you're going to end up likely pretty much flirting with some gap fills that you have below, and that's not going to be ideally pretty. So that's what I would pretty much look at in this one. But I do like this chart quite a bit in particular. I haven't seen this chart before, but it's a beautiful uptrend. But above this, say 84.80, that's pretty much what I'll be looking at in terms of reclaiming over that uptrend resistance. All right. And last one, real quick, FCX. I know that CVS I think was actually on the newsletter, if I'm not mistaken. So I'll see if I can take a peek at it real quick before I pretty much wrap up. Looking at this one, I like the trendline support that you have on this one. This is a beautiful trendline support on FCX on Freeport. I know this one gets quite a bit of volume, So this is definitely a beautiful chart here in the setup. If I'm looking at your resistance on this one, I'm looking at the spot right here in particular. I would look to see us get over this level here, over this 48.15 is what I'm looking at, and then you can see potential gap fill here at the top. Otherwise, if you can't get over that level, it's going to end up coming down towards the support trend line, and you're going to want to see if you end up breaking under 4608. And that's going to be when you're going to see some gap fills towards the bottom, in which I do see that you do have a gap here under 4130. So keep an eye on that one, but I do like, I know it's in the mineral space. I know that we pretty much just see a lot of these minerals just going up and up and up. So pretty much look for that break over that 48.14 mark, and you could play this towards that gap fill over the 47.55. All right, and that'll be a beautiful one. Real quick before I wrap up, so I know that class is gonna be starting. Looking at CVS real quick, so I can give you a quick level off of this one. I haven't looked at this one recently, to be honest with you. Let me just see where your potential resistance pretty much lies. And this is ideally the resistance spot that I'll be watching for. So you are approaching right into that resistance. You want to see this break over this 104.56 mark. If you can break over 104.56, then you are going to be flirting with your supply zone here at the top, and that's going to be right between the zone right here. So you're flirting between 105.73 up towards 105.90, and that's going to be your potential supply zone where you're going to see some profit taking step in. Some sellers are going to be looking to get out. But otherwise, the bigger level is that you definitely want to see this break over this 104.60 mark before you can make it towards that supply zone. Otherwise, you're going to end up rejecting, and this is going to come back down towards 102.25 rather quickly. All right, and that's what I'll be looking at with CVS. All right. Other than that, though, guys, appreciate you guys joining. So let's switch over. Let's get into class and listen over to Sig and Dapper. But appreciate you guys joining, and you guys have a great evening. All right.